Okay, good evening, everybody. Jim Williams here. We have a very serious situation unfolding for the west coast of Florida. The NHC forecast and the track that this storm is moving, a 2 day cone, we're at Monday night. We're talking Wednesday night is when it all goes bad for the west coast of Florida. But the thing is, a 2 day forecast has about a 50-mile error on the track. So if this comes in south of the forecast track, it could be Port Charlotte all the way up to Cedar Key. That's the spread we're talking about here because of the angle of approach. The only thing that would be beneficial to Tampa is if it comes in a little bit south. That might lower the surge and maybe cause more of an offshore wind, which would be much better for Tampa. And then, of course, it'd be worse for areas further south. We have a serious situation unfolding for tomorrow. Let me bring in my co-host here, Bill Phillips. Bill, thank you for being with me tonight. How are you doing, buddy?
Doing all right. I'm going to piggyback off what you just said. On the front page of Hurricane City, it's under products. It'll say Jim's predictions. 2021 list is still up there in its entirety. The information on that page speaks for itself over the last almost 20 years.
I mean, well, I leave it up there because I want people to see how good it was over all the years. But there are no predictions for this year. And what I've noticed on Weather Twitter is the people that are the people that have been doing this for a long time, and even people like myself that have been doing this as a hobby for like 20 years, a lot of us are kind of starting to back off on the whole prediction stuff because you can look at what Eon's been doing with the forecast track from the National Hurricane Center. It's the windshield wiper effect, right? It's left Panhandle, then it's right to Tampa, then it's Big Bend, now it's Sarasota. Like, I have people calling me privately and they on the phone and they're like, "Well, what do you think? My daughter's going out of town on Thursday and she has to leave the airport." I mean, I hate these kind of questions. Like, I feel like you have a gun to your head every time there's a system out there, and people are expecting you to pinpoint where that thing is going to go. And it's so I've kind of backed off on everything this year. I'm not just sitting occasionally mention something, maybe show a forecast track or like I show the herd track images, but Facebook I've tailed off significantly on making the call on where these things are going to go. And then when you're wrong, they'll really hold you to it, for saying something wrong.
They don't want to give you the credit when you're right, but they love to flatten you if you mess only one thing up.
I mean, there's going to be a lot of hindsight questioning of everybody that had an opinion on where this thing is going to go. The models have been all over the place. It's a hard job. The Hurricane Center has their work cut out for sure.
I wouldn't want I wouldn't want their job at all. The Gulfstream 5 jet, the high altitude jet, usually cleans up the models when they start flying it. And there was the first time they flew it, when they ran the models again, there was virtually no difference. I'm ready to pull my hair out with this. I can't remember a storm where it's just, I mean, it's like whiplash.
Yeah. Yep. I mean, if you look at the people in the Panhandle. I mean, for a couple days there, it was like, okay, now it's Panhandle, and they're probably running around like, wait a minute. But then they show it kind of weakening down to a Cat 1 or something, and now it's like, okay. But then it shifted to the Big Bend. Then it's back to Tampa. Then it was Big Bend again, and now it's back to Tampa. And some of the models are even just south of Tampa. The thing about it is, if it comes in further south, it's going to be stronger. If it comes in further north, it's going to be weaker. I think that's at least that much we can come to a conclusion on, correct? I feel sorry for so many people. They're going to lose a lot of real estate. I mean, the water's going to go everywhere.
Sure,
it's going to be in all the buildings.
I think the tornado risk could be higher than usual with this landfalling event.
Yep.
With the amount of shear that might kick in.
Very good point. Yep, that wind shear with those feeder bands coming in from the south, and then the shear at the upper levels causing rotation.
But Ivan, in 2004, I think produced somewhere in the range of like 50 tornadoes in like a 48-hour period. It was some high absurd number.
There was the track of the 1921 hurricane that came into Tampa Bay, and that was on October 25th. So basically 30 days from now, and that was a Category 3, winds of 120 miles per hour, and it moved in just north of Tampa Bay. I mean, this exact track could almost pan out, with the exception that this one's going to be a little further east, going over East Cuba. But if that same trajectory plays out, then you would have to think Port Charlotte, Sarasota. I mean, if that track were to pan out based on the current movement and trajectory of the hurricane, actually it was 105 mile per hour winds when it came in. They're not 120. I'm mistaken on that. It hit just north of Tampa. The tides were 11 feet above normal, and they nicknamed it the Tarpon Spring Storm because it did come into Tarpon Springs. It caused $3 million in damage and is blamed for the deaths of at least 8 people. Pressure was 952 millibars, and here's the map of where it came in. And again, 105 mile per hour winds right over Tarpon Springs. This is going to be a really, really wet hurricane. I mean, this is going to be flooding, and things being submerged is going to be the story with this hurricane, not the wind. I think even though the wind will be intense, it's going to be a water story. This is going to be huge flooding. Anyway, people in these areas that are going to get hit on Wednesday and Thursday, brace yourself for an experience that you haven't experienced. Now, if you're down in Port Charlotte, a lot of those people went through Charlie. But what if it gets up to 150 or 1? What if it becomes a Cat 5? I mean, I don't know that that's going to happen, but what if it does in the southeastern Gulf?
No, that changes to me. That we talked about this yesterday privately. That changes the calculus a lot.
No, yeah, that's a game changer for sure. All right, here's the icon model.
Icons.
So that's really shifted. That's shifted quite a bit east. That has it coming in at 950 millibars. Completely onshore, it's at 959, but it comes on at 950, and that's just south of Tampa. Well, that's the icon model. And then it has it crossing just north of Lake Okeechobee, just south of Orlando, as a Cat 1, and then has it going out into the Atlantic, and then up into the Carolinas, South Carolina. Another hurricane hit up there. Wow. See if that icon pans out. Wow, H-Mod has really shifted south. Now it's south of Tampa. The H-Mod was over Tampa earlier today. Now it's south of Tampa, 952. And again, that would be good news if the H-Mod pans out, because that would push the wind offshore and not into Tampa Bay. 955.
Would it suck would we get that suck the water out effect maybe? To the south.
Has it cutting across the state. Goes up into South Carolina, just like the H-Mod. Basically, the H-Mod and the icon model are almost identical. See, the UK men, see what I'm talking about? Like, if you look at this track, it all of a sudden makes a hard right-hand turn, and then it starts to drift more to the north again, and kind of goes up on the east coast. But that keeps it so weak that UK Met is like 990 millibars. I hope people that got out of the area that know that they're vulnerable, like Chris, they got out of the area, so they know that they're going to be underwater, and they left. So
look, if you know you're in a vulnerable area, and you're a local resident, if you've lived there and you know you're in if you know that you've got to go when your number's called, when it's time for a storm to come, you got to go. That's a you problem if you don't.
Yep.
And I'll go one step further. Authorities should not have to risk themselves to come save you because you were dumb.
Well, that's always going to happen, but
That's all. But I'm just saying. I mean, it needs to be said. I mean, if you know you're in a vulnerable area, get out. Period.
yeah,
Because there's no. I mean, yes, people die from trees and electrocution in the aftermath from generators or
yeah,
there's unfortunate incidences, but the majority of the deaths occur from two things, and they both involve water: storm surge and flooding, because people get stupid.
yeah.
Don't do it.
Yeah.
Don't be a statistic. End of rant.
Okay, you guys, welcome to my hurricane warning show for Hurricane Ian, which is coming in Southwest Florida right now. And this thing is near Category 5, the National Hurricane Center. They're flying the recon out there right now, and they're finding that the winds are right on the threshold of a Category 5. In fact, I'm going to check NHC in a minute here to make sure that they haven't upgraded it as I'm speaking. But they found at 10,000 foot flight level, they found winds at 155 knots. That's like 175, 180 miles an hour, I think. And, they have to extrapolate that down to the surface. So they're on the verge of classifying this as a Category 5 hurricane. And as I stated on the show last night, was it last night? I'm losing track. No, it wasn't last night. The night before, when Bill and I were together doing the show, we were talking about how this could be stronger and it could be further south. And that the people that are going to get hit by this hurricane right now are going to have an experience that they've never dealt with before. Okay, so there you go. There's our current position of Hurricane Ian, a 155 mile an hour hurricane. And let's go ahead and put this into motion and show you the wind fields. So there it goes as the day progresses and moves inland east of Tampa. Remember yesterday, all the focus was on Tampa, Bradenton, even north of Tampa, and then the model shifted. And I got to tell you something, and I don't want to get too much into model talk here, but that's our current position right there. That's what's happening right now. That's the current position of Hurricane Ian. But I got to tell you, the models, the GFS. In fact, I was going to queue up an image for the show here today, and that was a picture of my truck all mangled with the word GFS on the side, because that's basically what this storm is from my perspective. Is not only did my truck get destroyed, but the GFS messed with a lot of people. I mean, the GFS had this over Tampa or west of Tampa, heading into the Big Bend, Florida area. And of course, that was wrong. And now we have what the Euro and the Icon model really wanted to show what was going to happen. They didn't have it this intense, but they did have it as a 962 millibar system coming into the Port Charlotte area, or just south of Tampa Bay. So those models were correct even going into last week, and the GFS was stubbornly keeping this offshore or over Tampa. So here we go again. All right, so again, this is 1 a.m. in the morning, 2 a.m., 3 a.m., 4 a.m., right dead center in the state as a 86 mile an hour hurricane. Next position. Then we get to near Orlando. Its closest approach to Orlando is 9 o'clock tomorrow morning, and that is as a 70 mile an hour tropical storm. Then it moves offshore Daytona Beach, and that would be tomorrow evening at 5 p.m. That's how slow and how long this is going to take to cross the state. It's going to reemerge over offshore Daytona and east of St. Augustine on 1 a.m. on Saturday morning. Or wait a minute, I'm losing track of my days. Today's Thursday. No, today's Wednesday. So it'd be Thursday. It'd be Friday, and then it is heading up towards. It'd be on Friday or Saturday. It'd be heading up towards Georgia. So let's go ahead and show you the wind swath projections. And here we go. So if you look at the areas that are being impacted right now, we're talking winds 155 to 180 mile an hour wind gusts inside that dark red circle. And then as we get up into like the Arcadia area where my cameras are located, it'd be 130 miles an hour to 155. And on and on. Up near Orlando, we're talking 72 miles an hour gusting at 88. And up in the Ocala area, we would be looking at winds of 60 to 73 miles an hour, just under hurricane force gusts. And of course, in Tampa, we'd be still looking at the city of Tampa, rather proper would be 68 to 77 miles per hour. And again, this is all based on the 11 a.m. advisory, and that could change from this advisory to the next, so things can drastically change. We have the eye wall moving onshore right now in Sanibel Island. I'm going to go to the weather observations in just a minute, but it was looking like some of the gusts I was finding earlier on some of the weather flow instruments in Sanibel Island were upwards of 90 miles per hour out of the east. So they're really getting hammered really good right now on Sanibel Island. No observations, no observations, no observations. Captiva, no observations. St. James City, no recent observations. But let's look. Let's go to the dashboard because it records the last wind gust. Look at that. South winds at 85. Oh, let me blow this up a little bit. So look at that. South winds at 85 miles per hour. There's Port Charlotte, Englewood Beach Cam. And you can see it's really whipping around there pretty good. But look at the winds. They're primarily offshore right now. Look at the palm trees. They're blowing from from east to west. So that wind is offshore. And notice it's decapitating the waves a little bit and maybe preventing that surge from coming in. But once those winds switch around to the other direction, it's going to be a completely different ballgame. So speaking of tides, the high tide today is at 2:45 p.m. So we're in between low and high tide right now. And when it gets around 2 o'clock or by an hour and a half from now is when the water's going to be at its highest. And it'll last that way for probably about 3 or 4 hours. And then low tide tonight is at 8:36 Eastern time. And then the high tide tomorrow is at 1:56 a.m. So if this thing is still lingering, we're going to go through 2 high tide cycles. But it looks like this will be moving across the state and maybe probably be over by Orlando by tomorrow early morning, or at least by tomorrow morning it'll be completely onshore and weakening. So the surge would be lowered a little bit at the next high tide cycle, which is at 1:56 in the morning. Ooh, look at this. Wait, no. Apparently that was the last shot of that camera before it went down. I don't know what the X is. Something went wrong. Camera is offline. But look at the surge moving in. Palm trees are starting to get submerged. Look at the palm trees over in the right-hand corner of that screen. They're almost completely underwater. Like, that water has to be probably several feet high. Even though if those are little palm trees, that water's got to be a few feet high to make those palm trees almost disappear into the water like that. Sanibel Hobbs. South at 72. That was... Let's see when that was. 983 millibars and falling. That was an hour ago. St. James City. South at 85. Wow. Let's see what this is showing. Bakita Obs. Whoa! East-southeast at 132 miles an hour. Wow. Holy smokes, 132. That's 29.32 inches and falling. That was 2 hours ago, too, by the way. A weather flow station near Sanibel Island, Florida, recently reported sustained winds of 71 and a wind gust of 98. Apparently, they didn't see the 132 mile per hour wind gust I just showed you. A wind gust of 98 miles per hour, and a river estuary and coastal network station in Redfish Pass recently reported sustained winds of 67, gusts to 84. And again, the current position of the hurricane is 45 miles southwest of Punta Gorda, Florida, 50 miles west-northwest of Naples, winds 155 miles per hour, moving northeast at 9. So it's slowed down 1 mile per hour, and it's now making the northeast turn. Pressure 937 millibars. That's 27.67 inches on your home barometer. So we're going to focus in on the Fort Myers and Port Charlotte area. And look at this. All the areas that you see in red there are 9 feet above ground. Like that's water is going to be 9 feet deep above ground level. Orange is 6 feet, yellow is 3 feet, and blue is 1 foot above sea level. So obviously, the shots you saw down in Fort Myers here, along the beaches and Sanibel and all that, that's all the 9-foot water coming in on these beaches and waterways. Starting to lose my voice already. Wow. Water is up to above the tires on the cars in Fort Myers. And notice in this video, the winds are really not that strong. I mean, they are strong, don't get me wrong. I'm not trying to downplay 60, 70, 80 mile an hour winds, but these are not the core winds around that eye wall that you would, because those trees would all be just getting flattened. This is outside of the eye wall. East winds at 48, gusting to 64. That's from the University of South Florida network. That's north of the center of circulation. That's like northwest of the center of circulation. Yeah, any minute now, they're going to get that eye wall penetrate. They're already in the eye wall right now. Well, they're actually penetrating it right now. The winds where they are right now are 62 knots, 71.3 miles per hour. Getting right in on that thing. See it right there, your Sanibel. So there's Sanibel, just getting into the eye right now. Remember, they were getting raked by 132 mile per hour winds out of the east-southeast a little while ago at 1 p.m. Fish Pass 75, gust to 100. Weather flow station near Sanibel recorded winds of 77, gust to 107 rather, sorry. Earth Network station in Naples recently reported a gust to 112. So this is not an official landfall report. Winds are still 155. Con's getting closer. Let's see what they got. We got winds 92. That's 105 mile an hour surface winds right where they're at right now. 105 surface winds, and that's just northwest of Sanibel Island. Wow. Look at that latest radar shot. That's a big, fat, red area up there going into Port Charlotte, man. They're getting nailed by that red band. Look at that. Yeah, like that area there is all the greater Port Charlotte area, and that red is moving right in on them right now. 10 p.m. NOAA Doppler radar indicates that the eye of Ian made landfall. Ian, whatever. Southwestern coast of Florida near Cayo Costa. That's on the north side of the off of Fort Myers. What's that? Sanibel, on the north side of Sanibel. Data from the Air Force Reserve reconnaissance aircraft indicate that Ian's maximum winds were estimated to be around 150 miles per hour. So that's the official landfall, 150 miles per hour. Latest minimum pressure estimated at reconnaissance is 940 millibars. That's 27.75 inches. Again, that 3:10 p.m. position, 26.7 north, 82.2 west, 20 miles west-northwest of Fort Myers, Florida. 20 miles west-southwest of Punta Gorda. Maximum sustained winds 150, moving northeast at 9 miles per hour. So it's crawling. Minimum central pressure 940, 27.75 inches. That's by Jack Bevan, Eric Blake, Papin Fix. And there it is onshore right now. And most of the heaviest bands and highest winds, the winds that are 150 miles per hour, are up in the northwest quadrant of the storm. So Englewood, Venice, Port Charlotte's getting nailed right now. Cape Coral, from what I understand, I got a message from Bill, and he's said that there's people that are swimming out of their houses in Fort Myers, and there's a lot of flooding, a lot of storm surge coming in. And we knew this was going to be a huge problem. They said up to 9 feet in some of these areas, and that's turning out to be the case. And it's still alive. So the high tide is now at its highest, and it's starting to go down. Again, we have the tide of low tide tonight at 8:36 p.m. High tide at 1:56 in the morning, but hopefully by then this thing's going to be well inland. Wow. And there's our official land point over Sanibel Island, basically, for the most part. That's the landfall location. And of course, it's heading over Port Charlotte now. All right, we've had a gust of 60 now. There it is, our anemometer cam. Gust of 60, that might be 68 miles an hour, not sure. Having connectivity issues. And again, our camera's up in here somewhere in Arcadia. There's Josh Morgan's location. He's in Punta Gorda. Yeah, he got another eye penetration. Good for him. There's Josh Morgan's eye. Penetration there right in Punta Gorda. Picture by Bobby. The storm on the right is the 1926 the 1926 hurricane that hit Miami. And here's Ian on the left. Palm trees are almost the same height above the water line. Incredible. And there's our radar, and you can see that Arcadia is right under the northern eye wall right now. That's where this is hitting. And they're just absolutely getting hammered there. I mean, there's debris flying everywhere. When I saw the Bill's magnetic cam, there was debris flying. By the time I could get the live feed going, the camera went offline. Let's look at some more videos here.
Bringing you non-stop coverage. Know that any of you may be scared, you may be worried about your homes, but we are going to be okay. And we're going to be bringing you.
Looks like a cat or something out there on the dock.
Any of you may be scared, you may be worried about your homes, but we are going to be okay. And we're going to be bringing you non-stop coverage.
see Arcadia right on the map here. And they're on the northern quad right now. Right there is Arcadia, where my mouse pointer is, and they're right there where the Reds are. I mean, just south of there. It's blowing really hard. We have winds 140 miles per hour now. It's 5 miles east of Punta Gorda, about 120 miles south-southwest of Orlando. Maximum sustained winds 140 miles per hour. Moving north-northeast at 8, so it's still moving slow. If anything, it's slowed down even more. 945 millibars, 27.91 inches. Flow station reported winds of 95 with a gust of 128. University of Florida Coastal Monitoring Program wind tower recently reports sustained winds of 89, gust of 114. Wow. Wow, it is really, look at all the debris flying in the air. Well, Jim Eds is there. Yeah, there's Jim Eds' location. He's right smack dab in the middle of the eye. He's also out there on that, in that area where.
Over that pool at points. And for a lot of people, they were dealing with this storm surge bleeding into their windows. Kelly and Peter were talking about the folks they talked to on Fort Myers Beach as well. It was really the most devastating thing I think a lot of us have seen in a while, seeing these folks with those waves coming up in and hitting their second floor window. And they felt like they didn't have any higher land to go to. So in this situation, looks like, you know, maybe the water was a little lower, but still very threatening storm surge, just unbelievable.
The next piece of video we want to show you is the LCSO Command Center. Go ahead and take a look. This almost looked like a floating barge. It almost looked like
we've already seen this one.
That was moving down the road, but that is actually a mobile outreach center that is supposed to be on the ground, and instead it just kept floating down the road. Unbelievable video from Fort Myers Beach, where they have had major issues. In fact, we've talked to some people on Fort Myers Beach this evening, and they talked about how backup water systems have failed. They are dealing with so much storm surge. A great portion of that island is basically underwater at this point. I can tell you, we're going to have an interview coming up here very shortly, but I talked to a couple on the phone on Fort Myers Beach. They live on Coconut Drive. This afternoon, their house started to crumble, and they made the decision that they needed to get out, which was a good one, because the house ended up in the water. They ended up in the water. They wound up swimming next door to their next door neighbor's house. They climbed through the second-story window, and that's where they are right now, hoping that this passes and that the water level does not continue to rise on them. Again, you're going to hear from them coming up very shortly, but Fort Myers Beach, just looking at the video, you get a sense of what has happened there, and then you hear the stories and you realize perhaps staying was not the best choice.
And those communities near the beach, Iona, for example, Keith, our producer, I don't know if we have any video of that we can show in a bit, but some of those folks that live close to those island communities, they have water in their house. It sounds like everyone is okay that I've spoken with in Iona, but just some serious water they're dealing with in their house. And right now, this is in Iona, Keith? Okay, so take a look. You're looking at Iona right now. Again, sometimes it seems people aren't as worried about storm surge if they're not right on the coast, but this is just a bit inland where they are seeing some major flooding in the Iona area. Right now, our team of meteorologists, they are going through the new 5 o'clock advisory. So the big thing to remember too is this isn't over. A lot of our communities, Charlotte County and up north, are
Arcadia is just getting nailed. Okay, there's the radar. And see Arcadia? Look at the red. It's right under the red eye wall. That's why Arcadia is getting nailed right now. Absolutely getting hammered in Arcadia by the northern eye wall of Hurricane Ian. And we're trying to pull the cameras up